Welcome to Fake It Till You Make It and Then What? This is a conversation about being a mom, a wife, an author, and my journey through life. Hey y'all, it's sweater weather time. Do you shop for the holidays that you celebrate? Do you celebrate Christmas? Do you celebrate Hanukkah? Do you celebrate Kwanzaa? Are you done with your shopping? Are you a Black Friday shopper? Are you a last minute shopper? I am chuckling to myself because a friend posted in social media, and it was a meme where it had a picture of the husband's Christmas list versus the wife's Christmas list. And the husband, it was like one item, the tree. And the wife, it was like the kids, the moms, the mom-in-law, the friends, the school, the teachers, like the list goes on. And I'm laughing because that's so true. I'll be like, I'll ask my husband, what gifts do you need to get? And he's like, what? And I'm like, well, I have to do this and I have to do this and I have to do this. And we don't have to. But so many of us women and moms, we're givers. It's our love language. We love to give gifts. We love to let people know that we care about them and honor them. And of course, you don't have to spend money. You don't have to go into debt. It doesn't have to be a thing. But for those of us who do give gifts and love to give gifts, it's funny to see those memes that remind us how we are. One of those stores that I like to shop at for gifts so that we don't break the bank is Five Below. Five Below is kind of like the next level dollar store. It's great for discounted gifts, for little shirts. And this year, I talked to Mike and I said, you know what, we are going to do it. We are going to focus more on the meaning of why we celebrate Christmas. And we're not going to go crazy trying to put so many presents under the tree, because I want to make sure that we're teaching the girls how to give back more than how to receive. I remember when I was younger, my dad worked so hard and we were not spoiled, but he would go all out for two things, our birthday and Christmas. And he would do it up. It would be just incredible. He would get presents wrapped. He would wrap the presents and then he would do a whole Santa thing. They would put out a plate of cookies and try to pretend like Santa came, and then I would be like, oh, well, I've got the letter from last year. Let me compare the handwriting. It was a whole thing that kind of sent me on a spiral to where I was I'm recovered. I'm okay. For me, I love celebrating the characters of Christmas. I don't subscribe to saying that something is real versus not real. But I do celebrate with the characters. Like I love pictures and little statues of Santa Claus and different variations of Santa Claus, with brown skin, with fair skin, with a white beard, with beach shorts, with a cowboy hat. And I love snowmen and Rudolph. So it's just a lot of fun. I am Christian. We do celebrate the birth of Christ. And so we do that celebration when we're at church. Are there any events or traditions that you have with your family? Do you go and drive around and see Christmas lights? Whenever I was younger, I lived in the San Antonio area, and we would drive through a neighborhood called Windcrest, and they would always have really nice Christmas decorations and lights. And that was something that we would do as a family. And then here in the Dallas area, in the Plano area, there is, Deerfield is the neighborhood, and they just do really beautiful, really elaborate decorations, and they do carriage rides. And then also a city near me, there's a lot of people who decorate, and they decorate to music, and they set up the lights and the music to play and flash. And I'm in a couple of local groups, and some people, there was this whole debate in October and November where people were like, I'm ready to put up the lights. And other people were like, you can't put up the lights until it's it was a whole thing. You know, if these people are paying their bills and they have their house, like, they should be able to put up their Christmas lights when they're ready. You know, I don't know. That's what I think. I think that if I'm paying my bills and this is my house, I should be able to decorate, you know, if it's not this huge distraction, you know, if it's not causing a traffic jam in the neighborhood, why not? Why not let them bring a little bit of joy? If they are second week of November instead of day after Thanksgiving, you know, it's 2 more weeks of joy. But that's me. That's my thinking. How about you? When do you decorate? Do you decorate? Are you a minimalist? Do you not put up a tree? Do you only put up a tree on Christmas Eve? There was one time I was listening to the radio, and there was a family, and they had like they had moved, and there was a health issue this one year, and they didn't get home until I think it was the 23rd, and they went and bought a tree and did everything in one day. And they ended up making it a tradition each year. So they took something that was dark and heavy and probably stressful and turned it around and let it be their way of celebrating. And so every year they would wait until the 23rd, 24th. They'd get a tree, they'd put it up, they'd fill, you know, presents under the tree. And that's how they would celebrate. What is some tradition that you like? What does this time of year remind you of? Is it a hard time for you? Are you missing loved ones who are no longer with you? Has the season completely changed because maybe your mother or your father is gone, and so now there's a little bit less joy? If it is, I am praying for you. I am thinking about you. I am encouraging you. I hope that you know that you are loved. And I hope that you get through this season. Take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out, one day at a time. But I wish you well during this season. I didn't understand until I lost my father in 2018, how much it affects what you do. You know, we had a family tradition that we had done all of my life. And then all of a sudden it was like, well, now what do we do? And so for, you know, a year or two, I changed it up, and I told my mom, just come over to our apartment. We'll decorate. You don't have to cook. Let's just do something different. So yeah, how have you changed up your traditions and your celebrations as you've gotten older and as your family dynamic has changed? How did having kids change the holidays? How did having a new son-in-law or daughter-in-law change your holidays? Did your family split up? Are there multiple celebrations where you have some of your family in a whole nother city? Or is everybody coming to one house? Do you celebrate on different days so that everyone can celebrate in their city? Do you celebrate Hanukkah? How is your Hanukkah celebration? So all of this has me thinking about the holidays and mental health and well-being. It's so important. And make sure that you're taking time to think about how you're doing. How are you doing? How are you really doing? And if you need someone to talk to, do you have a close friend or a family member that you trust with your personal feelings and information? And if you don't, get a therapist. Find a therapist. There are so many resources. You can do it with your insurance. You can do it without your insurance. My church actually has counseling available. It is virtual and it is free. Y'all, there's resources out there if you need them, if you need someone to talk to. And I will share this information in the description below so that you can get the help that you need. Something else that I love, historical dramas. I love a good Bridgerton, a good Queen Charlotte, a good Victorian house, and a costume with the ruffles or the lace and the big bustles. And I love it. Part of it is I love seeing clothing. That is a form of art. I'm very interested in art and art history and thinking about costume design. I look at how characters are dressed in these movies and shows. And another movie that had really unique costuming was the Snow White remake. I can't think of the name of it right now, but it had Julia Roberts, the actress. I really liked the way they used the colors and the fabrics. And then also, I love fairy tales. Once Upon a Time on ABC, it was a show that was popular in the, 2000s? 20 teens. Once Upon a Time. Really unique take on fairy tales. All right. Let's get to the conversation. This is part 2, where Mike and I finish out our dialogue, and we're talking therapy and how we celebrated on our anniversary. Hope you enjoy it. So we got married. Then we had Miss Hazel. Added her to my 2 daughters, Annie and Olivia, and then now Hazel, and she has been amazing ever since. Yeah. So now here we are at 6 years. We got through COVID and just all the things.
Who saw that coming?
COVID and post-COVID and
COVID and kids. Oh, man.
So what we are, we are, so just wanted to take a minute and remember how we started and thinking about where we are currently. We're both doing work on ourselves, and this doesn't have, in Wednesday school recently, there was a gentleman who was speaking about mental health and wellness. He's a family therapist. He's a doctor. And he said, your well-being journey is your own. You don't have to share that with anyone. But we just wanted to plug that in, that we are taking our, journey, and not to give details about it, but it's been tremendously healing.
Very much.
To learn, this is a challenge that you have, and this is the reason why, or this is something that you're avoiding, or this is a place where you're not being honest. Because for me, I had a perception of myself, and although that perception was true, it was my truth, there were also other parts to it, and other parts that had to be worked out and looked at so that I could make a decision on how I was going to show up next. So I could keep operating in, well, I'm, this person and this is my idea. Or I could say, why do I have this idea? Oh, this idea came from a negative space. So maybe it's time for me to change my idea. And then when I change my idea, I can show up and be a better mom, be a better wife, instead of saying, well, if you don't fit what I have in mind, this isn't going to work. Now I can say,
which is kind of what I did in the beginning.
now I can say, how can I adjust? How can I be better? How can I understand? Maybe I won't change my perspective on something, but maybe I can show some compassion, show some understanding. So yeah, therapy has been really great. And even moving on to I read a book listened to the audiobook of Dr. Anita Phillips, The Garden Within, the book by Nona Jones, and a book by Kobe Campbell. Kobe Campbell's book was Why Am I Like This? And that was an incredible book. When I first started, I listened to it on the way into work, and I put it down several times and was like, okay, I'm good. I don't need to finish it. And I came back to it and realized that you have to heal. Like, I think I spent a lot of time hiding all of those areas of brokenness and pain. And it was just like, I'm just going to let people see my smile. And people got used to seeing my smile. And then I would feel some kind of way because they didn't really see me, but that was because I didn't let them see me. And so that was because I had not healed from all these broken areas. I was just hiding them and covering them up. And so if you don't heal from it, it's going to come back. So that's kind of what her book, Why Am I Like This, really helped me with. The book from Nona Jones is called Success from the Inside Out. That book, all I can say is read it. It's not what you expect. It's not what I expected, but it was way more. Sorry, my audiobook is reading to me. Yeah, Success from the Inside Out. That was a powerful book. So anyways, all of the self-healing led me on these journeys. But Why Am I Like This? And Kobe Campbell introduced me to the language of somatic healing. So yeah, I'll share more on that, in the future, and what that looks like. But yeah, just on a journey to wellness.
Yeah. And so something I've learned about it, and I'm still learning as I watch my wife go through some of these processes. I've gone through some therapy stuff for myself. And sometimes it feels like there's such there always was like a negative stigma around therapy and that kind of thing. But
growing up, we went to therapy, but I think culturally and even it's kind of like we can do it for the family, but I don't need to do it for myself. Like, right. I'm not going to talk to someone about what I'm really thinking or feeling.
Right. But finding out now, like, that healing isn't just like mentally, but that mental healing that you might need is also can be attached to physical ailments that you have. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't consider. So
yeah, you could take medicine,
right?
But if you don't have a condition that you're taking medicine for, there's another book out there. I have not read it yet, but I've heard the title, The Body Keeps Score. So if you've gone through trauma, if you've experienced significant hurt or challenges, and you haven't processed through those emotions, your body could be tense and holding on to the trauma that hasn't passed.
Right.
And so, yeah.
And you know, like we've seen, when you think back to like older relatives and whatnot, and you hear their stories about, well, they were just always this way. People who are always this way. Like,
and nobody asked them why.
Right. And I look at that now and I'm like, you lived a life of holding on to trauma.
And secrets.
Like your trauma defined your entire life. You want, like you know, and a lot of it is, we didn't talk about it, the cultural stigmas and that kind of thing, but like,
we don't talk about Bruno.
Disney reference. Now that you know better, do better. And that's kind of where we're at, and the things that we focus on, and that we want to help other people by talking about it. So,
yeah. So that's just kind of our thoughts on how we started and where we are today.
So you want to give a quick rundown, kind of like what we're about to go do? Fun stuff that
something that I really like are Queen Anne Victoria houses. I love historical things like museums and
like she loves history.
Old cemeteries
loves
and
history.
1800s and where did this begin? And then because there's sometimes I drive around my city and people kind of dismiss my city and it's like, oh, it's, on the north side and
right. Just another nice city up there.
Yeah, they see it as a suburb, but there's so much history here that no one knows about, or I feel like no one's talking about. Not just history, American history and Black American history. That's not a story that's not being told. And so I'm really excited to learn more so that I can start sharing more.
And that'll be part of this channel as well, telling some stories and allowing people to come in and see that. So that's exciting to me.
Yeah. So we happened to, this whole area was settled in the 1800s, and then there's a railroad that came through. And so all of these little areas were settled by homesteaders. And so some of the historic homes were able to be salvaged and rebuilt. And so McKinney has some, Plano has some, and some of the other cities. But what we did find in McKinney was an incredible Craig Hurd Center for the Arts. And it is the Craig Hurd Mansion that was turned into this beautiful facility. We've also found Farmers Branch that has a
I forgot the name of that
historical park is the area.
Yeah.
Yes, and I don't remember the name of that one.
We might have to dip down there and see that house because there was a field trip the day that we went.
Yes. Yeah. So today, for our anniversary, we're just going to take an afternoon and enjoy a nice meal and dream.
Where we don't have to pick up the girls.
Yeah, because Nana is going to pick up both girls and hang out with them so that we can just take time and dream. And eventually you will see, I'm speaking it in faith. In fact, I'm starting my camera so that I can put it on camera. Eventually, we will have an Allen mansion, and it will be a Queen Anne Victoria home. It will have a porch. It will have some type of garden. Because one of the things that is exciting and that I'm starting to think about is legacy.
Right.
What does it look like to leave a legacy for my girls? And if my girls are off in other places doing other things, what does it look like to leave a legacy for the community that I'm leaving behind?
Right.
And so that's something I do. Like in my books, I love writing positive, uplifting stories that you might read as a child. There are stories that I read when I was 4 and 5 that I still remember today. So thinking about leaving a legacy through words, through stories, but then also having a space. One of the things we always do, we drive around, and as these ranch lands turn into suburbs and they're building, it's like, oh, where's the history? One of the things they did with the mansions is turned it into a museum so the house can live on. And you can go in and experience the house the way it was. So that's something that I'm excited about.
And we can kind of leave on this because we were talking, because you brought up the Craig Hurd I was thinking about that. And one of the things we learned up there is how they were forward thinkers.
Mm-hmm. They didn't have electricity yet.
But they built their house
so that electricity could be wired into it in the next 10, 20 years when electricity came through.
And so that's something that we try to focus on, where we want to go. Like, we want to be forward thinkers. And thinking about what does our 5-year-old's 20-year-old life look like, right?
And how can we set her up for success?
Right.
I know people are doing it. People have been doing this, but this is just our story. So thinking about it, how do we set her up for success? Not just in education, and not just putting her in things so that she's cultured, but what does technology look like? What does the world look like? What are some things we need to be prepared for? Mm-hmm. What are some skills that she should have? Should she know how to sew and grow vegetables and maybe raise some animals? Does she need to know how to protect herself in the event of a nuclear attack? We need to be thinking about these things because she is the future. So she needs to be prepared in so many ways. So not just business, not just education, not just talent and entertainment, but also just those real world practical skills.
And then even part of the forward thinking with the legacy that you're talking about, and
respect for community.
Oh yeah.
Respect for your neighbors. It's not just about being nice. How do you show respect for the people that you live with? Cleaning up the city, being aware of who lives in your city, all the different nationalities and races.
Respecting people you disagree with is a big thing.
That's
one thing
you can
I will
disagree.
make sure
you can disagree, but you should still have respect.
Right. We're going to get away from whatever culture's doing. But with the forward thinking thing in mind, when she's talking about legacy and owning the home, it's so much more than just having a big home. Mm-hmm. Like you said, you have the opportunity to leave it behind, and watching how much if you've never heard this expression, but made her baby leap, which when she was in that house, I saw how happy my wife was because it truly kickstarted that thing in her heart of this is where we can go. This is there was a ballroom on the 3rd floor, and for anybody,
this house was incredible. There was a basement made of trees. If you know, you know. A basement made of trees. There was a 1st floor, a 2nd floor that had all of the living spaces. 3rd floor we didn't get to see, but a full ballroom. And so for anyone who loves that show on that paid TV program with, I'm not going to say any names, but that show with the instrumental orchestra music, it was an experience getting to see it and then trying to imagine what would it be like to host a grand ball in your own home, and you're a member of society. So it's a lot of different things.
Yeah. And having those, I'm inspired by people who dream big. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the things that brought us together was we're both dreamers, and we both dream big. Mm-hmm. It can get daunting in it sometimes.
So big. Yeah, I spoke with a person recently, and they were like, I can see where you're excited, and then you're like, and you're excited, and you're like, because it's so big that I'm limited. But something is
I don't see how that's all going to happen through me.
Right. But that's cool because that's where God picks up.
100%.
Where we end, that's where God can pick up. So this is also telling a story about our faith, and we want to see that faith journey. And as it starts unfolding, we're just going to be like, see, this is what God did. This is where we ended, and this is where God just took off.
And we want that to be an encouragement to you, and that's why we want you to follow along with us. So if it speaks to you and you find enjoyment in it, make sure that you subscribe and
and subscribe.
As my daughter says, oh my gosh, I can't wait for y'all to get to know Hazel.
Yes. That's our time. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening in. Remember, you can follow me on social media, Ty Ayers Allen. If you have a question, if you just want me to read your letter, give you some encouragement, share a story with our listeners, laugh, email me, tyayersallen@gmail.com. Can't wait to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you well.